Welcome back to The Zone. Lionel Messi produced an inspired performance to lead Argentina to the World Cup final with a 3-0 victory over Croatia in the first semi-final at the Lusail Stadium. Messi scored the opening goal from the penalty spot to put the Argentines in front after 34 minutes. He also produced a sensational run to set up Julian Alvarez for the third goal. Alvarez was also quite brilliant on the day, winning the penalty for the opener before scoring 2 goals of his own. One of those goals, Argentina's second, came from a tantalizing run in the 39th minute of play. The victory means that the two-time champions will now play in their 6th World Cup final. Brent Sancho joins us to relive today's semi-final and the significance of today's win for Lionel Messi's legacy. And it's all about capturing the biggest moment on the biggest stage. And again, Messi came up trump, especially with that assist to Alvarez.
Yeah, he came up trumps today, certainly. We talked yesterday about the fine margins that define this World Cup, and today was similar. It was really about margins. Messi did show up. You know, of course, Louis van Gaal talked about him walking around the pitch, and I wouldn't mind that if he produces the type of moments that he has produced today. Certainly one for the archives, a vintage Lionel Messi performance. Of course, getting up in age, but certainly not losing the quality while he's doing that.
2 brilliant goals in particular. Of course, both of them would have involved Alvarez. Alvarez's goal, though, the first one with a bit of luck, that solo effort, because there were a couple of ricochets as he ran towards goal. But again, it was still a very good moment.
Yeah, it was a good moment, and if you go back before that with a penalty kick, you know, I think that particular moment, Donald, I think that's what changed the football game. You know, for me, I don't think it was a penalty. I do think that, again, the margins that we talked about yesterday, because that penalty was awarded, it significantly changed the course of the football game. We saw an uncharacteristic Croatia because of course, the penalty kick and the goal that was awarded and going a goal behind. And then we started to see mistakes that the Croatian team were not making throughout this tournament started to unravel. And you would have to feel quite sorry for the Croatians, because you may have to suggest that particular moment, that penalty, is really what I felt changed the course of this football game.
It's interesting because if there are controversial moments, you expect VAR to become involved. They reckon that it wasn't that controversial to overturn the decision, because initially I actually thought that it was a soft call.
I was yelled at by a referee for using the word soft call, so I would not go down that road. But you know, VAR uses the term clear and obvious error, and I felt just like you that it was. I thought that the goalkeeper planted and was very much cemented. I felt that Alvarez took the shot and missed, kicked the shot, and his momentum from that missed kick put him into the body of the Croatian goalkeeper. And for me, it was not a penalty, certainly not a penalty, and more strangely, it was never even reviewed. So I think that moment, and albeit, of course, I know there are going to be some Argentinian colored fans that would suggest that it was a penalty, but that moment, because it was awarded and because the goal scored, changed the course of the game. Because, Donald, I felt Croatia dominated possession, dominated, of course, in terms of field positioning for the first 25 to 30 minutes.
Yep. Brent, you just mentioned some uncharacteristic deficiencies from the Croatia performance today that you had not seen earlier in the tournament. How much would their grueling extra time and penalty battles with Japan and Brazil days apart last week, how much would that have impacted on their legs and their energy that they were willing to give today?
I want to think so, Lance, but you know, I have to jot my memory back to Russia, where they played in back-to-back extra time games, and they did not really show any wear and tear in that situation. But I do think, and to probably agree with your point, a lot of the mistakes that they made were mental mistakes. We saw 2 centre-halves being, of course, pulled apart, something that we didn't see throughout the entire tournament, because they've been very resolute and solid in their defending. We saw midfielders making mistakes and getting caught in possession high up the park. And of course, uncharacteristically out of shape Croatia in transition. So I think a lot of those are mental mistakes more than physical mistakes. And you could never count out mental fatigue, as you know, in sports. And so maybe that was the case in this scenario for Croatia.
Yeah, all along in our previews, Brent, you have suggested that you aren't completely sold on this Argentina team. and you have recognized some deficiencies in Croatia today. But weren't Argentina fluent today? Didn't Argentina pass the test?
Yeah, I would say they passed the test after the penalty kick was given. I thought they were a lot more expansive in what they did. I thought they were a lot more fluid in what they did. Of course, Lionel Messi came to life on a couple of occasions, and that very leaky, nervous Argentina defense that I'm always worried about was good. They were solid today. And so if you're looking at it from that perspective, if you're looking at it from the Argentina lens and maybe from a neutral lens as well, you would think that this was the best performance Argentina have put in this World Cup so far. We spoke a lot about there was no team in this World Cup that has put in, of course, 100 or 90 minutes plus of football type of performance. But I think this is as good as Argentina has been in this tournament, and this is as good as Messi has been in this tournament. And you have to think going into the finals that he could probably go up another gear. Certainly from what I saw today, I think that is possible.
Yeah, well, either Morocco or France will stand in their way at the moment now, Brent. And Argentina have played 5 finals before. They've lost 3 of them in 1930, 1990 and 2014. It would be heart-wrenching for Messi and the Argentina fans if they would lose another one on Sunday.
Look, Lance, I made a statement before this World Cup on this very program that although I am a Brazilian fan by nature, I wouldn't be surprised if Argentina went on and won the tournament, and Lionel Messi, of course, won it. And I lost a lot of friends here in Trinidad for making that statement as a Brazilian fan. And I feel the same way now as I sit here, because you just feel that that somehow, in some way, that despite all the unpredictable scenarios that we've seen in this World Cup, despite all the odd results that we've seen in this World Cup, the factor that would, of course, trump all of that is a guy called Lionel Messi and what he brings to a football game. He now is able to rise above those sorts of situations and scenarios and be able to deliver. Now, if he can do that in the finals, whether it be France or Morocco, I do believe Argentina hold the upper hand, simply because the moments of magic that he provides, whether it be for 30 seconds or for 2 whole minutes, it's enough to win football games. And there's no one in this tournament that I've seen that can do what he does, and that is provide special moments that would allow a football team to win a game.
Not even Kylian Mbappe?
I would say not even Kylian Mbappe. I would go as far as to say that. I think Kylian Mbappe and what he does is very vital to France, but I don't think necessarily that he could constantly produce World Cup winning moments. I can see Kylian Mbappe being shut out of football games if the team is prepared tactically to deal with him, like we saw England did in the second half against France. You could see those sorts of situations. But I can see teams trying to approach that with Lionel Messi in mind, and him still producing that special moment that could win a game.
A couple of things before you go, Brent, because a lot of the discussion about Argentina's failure in recent World Cup tournaments would surround Messi being solid, though not brilliant, but with the front men who are supposed to get goals not delivering. You know, there was Higuain's 2014 chance that Messi laid on for him that he didn't score. Are we seeing in this Argentina team, and supported by Alvarez and his efforts today, that Argentina does have the finishing power to support whatever brilliance Messi turns up with?
Yeah, and before that, it was Molino in the game before that. And of course, I could go through a whole list of Argentina players that has produced very, very good performances. So I agree with you. I think his supporting cast has come to the World Cup. They've had their moments. They've done well. Today is Julian Alvarez, who I thought was man of the match for me, and what he's been able to do. And of course, in the penalty shootout, there was Martinez, Emilio Martinez, the goalkeeper. So you've seen now an Argentina team with bit part players. And remember, Lance, some of these players would not even pencil in as a possible starter coming into this World Cup. We've seen, of course, Acuna, who's played and, of course, was rested suspended today, played an integral part in the last game against the Netherlands. And he wasn't a player. Tagliafico was supposed to be playing. But my point is, you're seeing players that are emerging out of this Argentinian squad and becoming heroes and are showing up. And more to your point, is specific, it has now allowed Messi to pick his moments. And I think that is the key word and key phrase and key situation that is allowing Argentina to do well. Lionel Messi now can pick his moments and not has to be of course, thinking of the fact that he has to drag this team for 90 minutes.
Yeah, and just to add to the point made by Sir Lance earlier, Argentina, they have scored 12 goals in the tournament. He has actually scored 5 of them, setting up another 4. So he has been involved in 9 of Argentina's 12 goals. And we speak about this every week, right? But because he's still playing and because Ronaldo is still around, there's going to be an argument as to how much more does he put on the tab of being the greatest of all time. And again, with his exploits this afternoon, that conversation will come up. Do you think that he's inching closer to that title, or does he really have to win the World Cup in order to cement his legacy there?
I think from where I sit personally, I've given him that tab already. I do think he is probably one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player. And that's just simply for my eye test. I don't necessarily believe, Donald, that you have to win trophies in terms of World Cups to become that. Simply because there are players that are great that would have played for countries that cannot qualify for a World Cup because their supporting cast is not good. Remember, football is a team sport. And what Messi brings to football is different to the average player that we see, or any player that we've seen throughout world football. So I try to not go too much down the road of what you win on the world stage, because at the end of the day, because it's a team sport, you are reliant on the 10 other players that's on the field. And we've seen that before with Lionel Messi. As Lance rightfully mentioned, the Higuain miss. And that may have changed the course of this entire conversation. So I try to, of course, temper that conversation down about winning World Cups as it relates to being the best in the world. And I try to focus more on the eye test of what the individual brings to the game. And I think what Lionel Messi brings to football is something that I've never seen in my lifetime.
And who will Argentina face off on Sunday?
I think that's a difficult one. I just feel that the injury list that has piled up with Morocco might be the stumbling block for them going into this France game. And the funny thing is, and I know we're going to do a preview of that final, whoever it may be, I just feel that France seemingly has Argentina's number. Again, I go back to what I said from the start of this entire tournament, that I do feel that Argentina may win, and I would like to see Messi raising the trophy. But I think if they are to play France in the final come Sunday, I think it will be a very, very difficult proposition because, as I said, I just feel that France has their number of recent.
Okay, Brent, we're going to leave it there, and we are all sitting anxiously to see whether France or Morocco will emerge from the second semi-final. Quite frankly, I think we've seen all of what Morocco has to offer. I think, as you mentioned, their injury list growing, and they've given so much. It's going to be hard for them to top of France, but it's football. We'll see what happens on Wednesday.
Certainly, we will see.
Yeah, all right, Brent. Yeah, so Donald, a lot of debate about Lionel Messi's contribution to this Argentina team at the moment. And the report card for him, as far as I'm concerned, very impressive as we speak today, because he was going into the World Cup on a tag of being past his best. And, there was a few that, he didn't win in 2014 or 2018 when he was better than he is now. But, Juan Arango made the point that the Argentina collective, and that pretty much embraces the points that Brent just made, the Argentina collective in this squad is probably more fashioned to win the World Cup than the 2014 and 2018 teams. And even though we would correctly say that Messi may have been better 4 years ago and 8 years ago, he is still good enough and brilliant enough to be a part of a winning team for the World Cup.
I think that is actually the key point, the fact that he has players around him, because I think it's universally agreed, if it isn't, please correct me, that international football is a bit of a step down in terms of the quality and the pace that we see at, for example, the Champions League level, or even at the English Premier League or La Liga or Serie A level. So it wasn't a matter of...
It might be a step down in one context, but certainly it isn't, because it is the greatest
show
on earth.
No,
and
in terms of the prestige.
And the pressure that is involved. I
Right.
don't think any player who plays in Champions League or any of the top leagues in Europe would compare the butterflies and the energy that they feel to what they feel at a World Cup final.
Understand, but that's an intangible, and we can discuss that forever. But in terms of the standard of play, usually, especially at international tournaments, we see that sometimes it's a step down. It's dramatic, yes. We see a lot of drama in certain matches, and that adds to the type of game that you do see. So I never foresaw Messi struggling really to make his mark at this World Cup. And again, it adds to the point that he has better players around him.
Yes.
In 2014, we reckon that Argentina were pretty top heavy. They barely had good defenders, and that's why they didn't go all the way, or they didn't go too far in that World Cup.
They went to the final, didn't they?
I figured that he would have been impressive, and he's proving that so far. Ronaldo obviously made that statement about Mbappe being the player of the tournament before this game today. So yeah,
that's a Brazil Ronaldo.
Oh yeah, that one.
Brazil, yeah, we have to make the distinction.
The real R9.
No, I'm not going to say that because that starts a whole different.
Well, there's no other R9, is there?
Okay, I understand.
Right?
Yeah, but you said the real. So.
The real R9.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. I didn't say the real Ronaldo. Well, that would have been an issue.
Yes, I think it's the real that threw me.
Okay.
We go to break. We have more to come on the zone.
Okay.
Yeah.